Hello, good evening from the Good News Broadcasting Studio, headquarters here in Nairobi. My name is Eugene Kwach, and of course, this is The Insight. And in this site here, we develop or we talk about stories and we give you insights on different issues that are affecting you one on one. And of course, in doing this, we bring different stakeholders in the political scene to actually help us understand through analyzing. So through their eyes, we get to know deeply what is happening in the country. And of course, we just do not analyze the country's political issues alone, but of course, we go abroad as well. But well, today we are going to talk about the Mashujaa Day celebrations, which actually happened this week. So we want to analyze some of the issues that happened there. But of course, apart from that, there are other issues that are happening in the political scene right now, much, much more. When you talk about the politics of succession 2022, and of course, that we are also going to talk about them in just a minute. Well, guest tonight is Kennedy Udwe. Kennedy Udwe is a political analyst, as well as an MP aspirant, Butula constituency 2022. We have Justice Akude Jura. Akude Jura is a lawyer and an economist. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for honoring my invite. And of course, let me start this on a positivity. Well, I'll start with you, Akude Jura. Well, the president lifted the 10 to dawn curfew. And what do you think, what the change of heart from a political analyst perspective?
Well, thank you very much. I think it is not just a change of heart. It is something that the president had in mind to see the country operate in 24/7, because our economy is also not getting very well. What happens right now in this country is that the business people are not finding it good to carry on with businesses because of the curfew. You realize that some businesses operate at the middle of the night. So if you open for them curfew and you say, let curfew stop, they are able to transport goods from one place to another. So it is important that the president, in his own wisdom, realized the need to open the economy, because the economy was operating at a half. The other half was actually locked. So that is what he chose to open up, so that businesses can operate very well.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Kennedy Udwe, what do you make of the curfew, 10 to dawn curfew? Are now the political eye, not known as an economist, but in terms of politics?
Yeah, I think I also need to take this opportunity to appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yes.
It's always good to have such platforms where we can share a few insights with fellow Kenyans.
Yes.
On the curfew, I think it was an overdue thing, a long overdue thing, because it was very inconsequential. We, as a person, I believe, and it's common fact, that Kenyans do not trust the government. And by virtue of that lack of trust, most of these directives, the government that imposes on people. And, you know, at the end of the day, especially where they are not consultative in nature, they are rarely followed by Kenyans. So I think if you look at the whole COVID thing, I've always opined that it was never handled in the best way.
Yes.
So like the issue of the curfew, you find that there's a curfew, but there are political rallies being undertaken. There's a curfew. So you find that this thing was more like many Kenyans have always assumed, you create some globally compliant measures for a purpose that's beyond what normal people will ever think. So for me, I think it's a good thing, because you realize that we are a hand-to-mouth economy. So one of the biggest sectors of our economy is transport, and that was the sector that was most affected, especially the night travels and all that. I remember as a person, there's a time I had to take like 4 days to travel from Mombasa to Busia. So those inconveniences, when you find that major companies like Modern Coast have to shut down, it shows that it's very serious. So it's a welcome thing, but it's something that was never even meant to be there.
Well, what is your major highlight on this week's Mashujaa celebration? You highlight what made of everything.
That is addressed to me?
Yes.
Okay. I think the first thing I observed during Mashujaa Day was some hypocrisy on the side of Deputy President.
Okay.
deputy president, we've been observing him going to other rallies and abusing president. But we expected him to do the same during Mashujaa Day somewhere at the heart of Kirinyaga County, and they chose not to do the same. He actually went on another agenda, praising the president and telling the president that, President, indeed you have secured a safe place in the history of this country. But that was to the contrary, because what he has been doing in Mombasa, in Rift Valley, and other places, even in Central, when he goes there in his political maneuvers where the president is not around, he keeps on reminding people with the same speech. You realize the speech he makes in Kirinyaga is the same speech he's delivering in Mombasa, that I made president who he is, I made Raila Odinga the prime minister, and now I want to come back to the people and they're trying to block me. So I expected him to, perpetuate the same narrative in front of president, and he chose to keep off. So that is one thing I observed. The other thing I observed is the fact that it was, of course, a good ceremony that was meant to appreciate some of our good heroes and heroines we have in this country. I was actually touched emotionally when I saw this kid from Busia, I don't know, her name is somebody Aoko, who came on board, and the government actually saw the need to celebrate that kid, who actually towed the mother across a crocodile-infected river to go and deliver a baby. That was good of the government, and it is something that really touched me emotionally. So those, among others, were some of the observations I made. Yes.
Odueyo, I think your foot has been touched. Well, Mr. Jua is saying that there's some hypocrisy in this week's event, that's the Mashujaa, that the deputy president is acted hypocritically, because as was expected of him to talk against the president and even the former prime minister, he did not touch anything against them. Actually, he praised the the president. And what do you think about it generally? Do you think the deputy president is hypocritical?
No, I'm just laughing because we are led by the king of hypocrisy as a country. Because this man here who purports to have been abused is the man who called someone Muganga. The Muganga, the one wants to leave the country too. So basically the president wants to leave us in the hands of Muganga. He publicly said that as the president, not as an aspirant. When Uhuru was saying Raila Odinga ni Muganga, analeta vitendawili, he was the official holder of that office. So can we imagine as a country, our president wants to leave us in the hands of Muganga? Is there any hypocrisy that is comparable to that? So basically, as a person, I wouldn't take what the deputy president says about, especially in those informal gatherings, in funerals and in rallies. This is the political gimmick that we are used to. And those are the political games that we play. And that's why, as a country, we are not ideological politically. And that's why we have to find other ways of weighing voters. The same way the Right Honorable will go and start announcing a football match. Those are not ideologies. He's just trying to find something that can make people remember him. Because in politics, it's about being on the mouths and on the minds of the people. That's how you remain there, and that's how you get. So these people have mastered that art. Raila Odinga, the Right Honorable, the Deputy President, Daktari, and the President are three sides of the same coin. So the games they play, all of them are in that mud. So you can't pick one and leave the other, because what one says is the same one that the other one says. Because I would also expect, why wouldn't the president once went on television said, kama uko na shida na serikali, you resign. Why didn't he say that now you are here, resign? So at the end of the day, you realize that these are games they are playing. And that's why I always say, I wish as Kenyans, we realize that we are being played. Once we realize that we are being played, then we find a way of organizing ourselves away from these games. And that's why I always say, we should create that alternatives. Because these guys are the same. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to blame the deputy president. When he says, there's a time I am told, I've never watched that clip there's something that has been going around about, I think he called the president Mkora. But it's true. We live in a country where we are being overtaxed unnecessarily. Young people have no opportunities in Kenya. You try to go to YouTube to start a venture and do some digital entrepreneurship, you are being taxed 1.5%. You raise a tax where it does not matter whether you are making profit. You're just taxed for the revenue that you make. Fuel prices are going up. Hiyo sio ukora. You see, you are subjecting. Personally, I believe, as a person, I believe development is not about the roads. It's not about the budget. Okay. As a country...
Still talking about Ruto's speech that celebrates the 9 years of Uhuru's transformation leadership. How he has united the nation, of course. More importantly, he assured the nation that the President Uhuru's legacy was safe in his hands. Actually, he told the former Prime Minister and Uhuru, he promised that he would protect their interest if he should ascend to the presidency. What did you make of it? Because he said that he will do that under the Big Four agenda and the bottom-up approach.
Let me say this, Eugene.
Yes.
I've heard what he's saying, and I think I have right to rebut him.
Yes.
When you don't have ideas, when you don't have ideas and you are through a political course, you tend to draw people into your mud and claim that even them, your opponents, do not have ideas.
Okay.
Raila Odinga has always provided a framework, a clear, cogent, and controverted framework of how he does his politics. Throughout many years that he has been in politics, he has always provided manifesto. He has always come with motto that Kenyans or his supporters tend to maneuver around, something that is contrary on the side of Deputy President. When I was saying that this person has been making same speech in different events, that tells you how shallow somebody is. Because Raila Odinga has always been coming with Azimio la Umoja, unity for the whole nation. At some point, we were talking about reform, you understand? And it has always been like that. It has always been like that. And that is one agenda that he always puts people around, that he wants leaders around him to embrace, his supporters to embrace. Then we move forward. That is something that is clear, a clear pathway that we can pick and move forward with, which is not the case on the side of Deputy President. So, although you cannot come and say Deputy President is perpetuating whatever that is doing simply because there is the notoriety within the political system. That is not the case. Raila Odinga is a seasoned politician and he has always meant well to this country. He has history at his fingertip. He knows what is really ailing Kenya and he has the right prognosis to address it.
Maybe if I was to rebut, I would like to tell my friend, before we got independence, our main need was to be independent. We got independence. When we were under the tight arms of Nyayo, we needed a constitution. Now we have a constitution.
Under whose auspices?
Now, after that, we now move to the next step. We are in the 21st century. Now, what is supposed to happen? We need economic emancipation,
and
economic independence. Now, that's what I'm saying.
Is Ruto bringing it? We talk about Ruto's speech, actually, when he talked about the bottom-up economic model. And of course, he used that platform to tell Kenyans, to inform Kenyans about what his plans were. And of course, he mentioned the bottom-up economic model. And of course, he also mentioned the Big Four agenda. And he said that should he ascend to presidency, that he was going to ensure that he's going to bring economic liberation through the two models. That is the bottom-up economic model and the Big Four agenda. What do you make of it all? Do you think the bottom-up
Maybe I should ask you first to declare your interest.
No.
Because you interrupted me and I was saying a point.
Yes.
Young people, the only thing, I always acknowledge this. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, former, has a history. But young people are no longer interested in history. History is not going to feed us, man. People want money. You cannot tell us, we are not going to vote for someone because he fought for a constitution. We want to vote for someone because he's going to ensure that we have money in our pockets. You see, Economic development to me is about the ability of an ordinary man or woman to raise a family at a normal wage. We need to have a normal wage or a normal earning where a man or a woman can raise a family. That's development for me. It does not matter whether we have roads or everything. So at the end of the day, you can talk about fighting for independence, you can talk about the fight for a constitution.
But what is this bottom-up economic model?
You see, basically the bottom-up, and I always use this, the bottom-up is about bringing, the first thing is bring decisions to the people.
Okay. How?
You see,
The blueprint.
we've lived in an executive society, and to a level where even with the constitution that separates powers within different arms of government, we still have all powers. All decisions in parliament today are made at the executive level. The same executive force is being extended at the judiciary. Why? Because of what I call the post-colonial one-man state syndrome.
Okay.
Where there are people who believe power must be consolidated around them. When you talk of the bottom up, it's about trying to create, you see, we have that pyramid.
Okay.
At the moment, there is consolidation of resources and power at the top. And that's why people are being interviewed by the Mount Kenya Foundation to become president. Instead of the people at the bottom being the ones to interview. As a candidate, you're supposed to be interviewed by the masses. We are a democracy. Bottom up is about ensuring that opportunities are at the lower level. We open up the space. We make policies and laws that ensure that at the bottom, we are talking about taxation. We are talking about cost of doing business. We are talking about policies at the county and the national level. When we talk about bottom up, we are talking about simple things like, for example, I use simple examples like when in my village, there are people who rear cows. When you're selling your cow, do you factor in the price, the issue of the hides? No, we don't. Why don't we take that hide, create a small butter in the villages? That is what we talk about when you talk about bottom up. It's about people having the enlightenment, one, and the resources, either singularly or by the support of the government, resource-wise, or by policy, to ensure that we as a community can organize ourselves and create opportunities.
So is there a blueprint that actually indicates of how bottom-up economic approach is going to work? Because actually, we hear of the deputy president and the lieutenants talking about bottom-up here, bottom-up there. But actually, we've heard, of course, in the media, most of them cannot explain what bottom-up actually really is.
You
what
see,
is actually,
and that's
is there a place where there's a blueprint of achieving this bottom-up economic model?
Let me now explain to you.
But you haven't explained. I've given you moments
No,
of time. But
I want to explain to you.
Yes.
You see, most of this, you see, when you have an economic bundle or an issue that you want to implement, it must be supported by laws and policies. You cannot implement laws and policies unless you have the, like we are a legislative.
Okay.
These things must be done by the legislature. What is happening when we talk about the bottom up? It's not like we are saying when we have the authority and we have the power, then these are the policies we are going to put in place.
Yes.
One of the things I'm telling you, if you have not understood, is that we open up the space at the grassroots for people to do business. We create a conducive environment.
We're going to come to that. I know you have
I want to
a rejoinder for that.
Yes, I have a rejoinder.
But actually, we are going to talk about, momentarily, we are going to talk about the bottom-up approach, and of course, the Azimio la Umoja, which I know that is being championed by the former Prime Minister
And
Raila
the value
Odinga.
addition method.
And of course, the value addition. Yes. But first of all, I want us to finish up the part whereby, the part of the Mashujaa. And I want us to talk about the guest speaker, the chief guest president, Chikwara, who called for the youth to be the agents of change. Do you believe that the youthful population will be the center of change come next year's general elections, bearing in mind that as Kenyans, we are undergoing, the IBC is expecting a certain number, a certain figure to turn out for voter registration. But as we can see, things as they are, that is not happening. The youth are not interested. Do you think that perhaps there's some indoctrination amongst the youth that maybe does not augur well with them, and that is why they do not want to involve themselves in politics? And going forward 2022, do we expect a miracle? Is there anything that is going to happen? Maybe as the youths of Malawi did, are we going to see Kenyan youth being agents of change?
Well, I think that's my question.
Yeah, that is your question.
Well, before I answer that question,
Yes.
No, just answer your question.
before I answer that question, you'd permit me the honors to respond to him.
Okay.
You know, if I were taking notes here,
Yes.
I would actually write nothing in regards to bottom-up economic model, because he has really tried to explain, but the same confusion that once Alice Wahome felt in is actually the same box that he has dropped himself into. Because you will try to explain in all manners possible, but I can tell you this as an economist,
Yes.
that the other time when I was here, I told you that something called model is such a heavy term to use.
Yes.
It's such a heavy term to use because even in Kenya, the models that we use, economic models that we use in Kenya, are borrowed models. We try to borrow models from US, from UK or other European countries to apply here. But it is a bit difficult because the process of developing model, like I said before, is a process that is scientific in nature. So Ruto cannot wake up in the morning and tell us, this is my model called bottom-up economic model. Yet he cannot tell us the econometric procedure he undertook to come up with that particular model. So that he tells us, during this process, these were the variables.
But he has also mentioned that the US president is also using the bottom-up approach.
You know, he cannot explain. You know, to mention bottom-up model is so easy. But to tell us the specific variables that you are going to use to balance that particular model is so difficult for them to explain. Now, let me try just to inject some facts to him. He has tried to say, oh, we have legislator trying to behave this way. We have this trying to behave this way. We have two things that actually drive the economy in any nation. We have the fiscal policy and monetary policy. The fiscal policy now rests on the side of legislation, where parliamentarians are expected to come up with laws that are supposed to guide the economy as it operates. On the other side, the central bank come up with monetary policies, which includes, among other things, coming up with things like market operations. You have had things like releasing treasury bills into the economy, or sometimes purchasing them back. That is a way through which you can influence money supply in the economy. We've had things like curbing the interest rates in the country. So these are the variables that if you try to adjust them accordingly, they will communicate to the people at the grassroots. So that Mama Mboga will be able to go to bank and borrow what? Borrow money to come back and start business. But as it is, you realize sometimes because of the nature of the economy, inflation, unemployment, among other things, may put, and even, you know, the credit unworthiness of people may also make it difficult for the interest rate to get lowered. So it may be capped at a certain level. Initially, it was capped in this country, but it was done away with.
Yes.
It can be taken to a certain level, which may, you know, disenfranchise the people. So that the people, the small business operators who would want to come to bank and borrow may not find opportunity because the interest rate has gone too high. So these are the things I thought you would address and tell us. The bottom-up approach will try to address interest rate, you know, will try to come up with laws, will try to tell us about what the government is going to do in regard to bonds and treasury bills, among others.
But that's what I've said. I've talked about laws and policies.
If he dare talks about them, all those are things that takes place at the top, trying to adjust things at the bottom. So literally, it is not a bottom-up approach. Because if Ruto talks about bottom-up, as an economist, I've always tried to listen to him. If I try to conceptualize what he's talking about, it is about taking handouts and giving back to the people. The question is, how sustainable that would be. How will it be sustainable? So that I'll rest there and come back to what you asked regarding youth.
Yes.
Youth in our country, Kenya, again, is, you know, we live in a country where democracy allows you to do anything you want. Right now, we have mass voter registration that is taking place. And in particular, Nairobi County, there is serious voter apathy. Because we expected there are quite a number of youths who had taken IDs from where I come, because I'm involved in politics personally, between 2018 to date, the registration at that particular sub-county had gone up to around 6,000.
Okay.
Right now, if you compare that against mass voter registration, we have a target of 26,000. So far, we are at 3,000. So you can see the gap.
Okay.
So meaning youths are not interested to participate. The question is, why could that be? I think, in my considered opinion, that one reason is the fact that elections in these countries have been marred with malpractices, including stealing. So you think, I don't want to engage in a process that, after all, my voice is not going to be heard. Number two, the level of unemployment is so high that youth find it so unnecessary to participate in an electoral process that is not going to, give them any benefit at the end of the day. And thirdly, is corruption in our country. You think we are doing nothing about corruption. We have a toothless dog in the name of EACC that is not trying to take this matters corruption so seriously. So that is my reason why I think youth don't want to participate. My advice to them, they need to participate because, like we say, we have the table and those who come and get engaged at the table level. If you don't want to come on top of the table and engage with others, you become the menu. You will be discussed and you will be crushed accordingly.
Okay.
So youths, it is their time to come and make their voice be heard. Again, there are this category of youths that have just tried to make politics a money affair.
Yes.
For them, they see a politician and all they think is money. So if a politician can't give you money, like what he was saying, then that politician is worthless and you don't need to follow him.
Okay.
But I think youth need to change that narrative, support a fellow youth, and get into the position that they want.
Okay, Mr. Due, I'd love us to talk about the war on poverty, inequality, and of course, I'd love to say the verbative, as the president said. And of course, he said that 60 years ago today, we faced the same war. So from this president's speech, he says, but when our founding fathers, led by Mzee Jomo Kenyatta's deputy Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, compatriots like Paul Ngei, Masinde Muliro, and others, overcame the darkness of emergency period, a new order emerged. They had a 3-point agenda and resonates to the date. They declared war on ignorance, poverty, and disease. 60 years down the line, and today, the war is still on. It is war we have inherited and one we shall also bestow in future generations. The commitment, as declared by our forefathers, is a sacred obligation today, and it is from one generation to the next. So my question is, are we even making progress for the economic liberations? Because now today, we are talking about a bottom-up approach, which unfortunately, even the guys who are championing the bottom-up economic model cannot even explain it themselves. There is no clear blueprint of achieving this bottom-up economic approach. We talk about the Azimio la Umoja. And of course, we are also talking, right now, we're also engaging in a conversation of the social welfare program. You look at all these things that are being brought up as a conversation to liberate us economically as Kenyans. Do you think we're heading somewhere? Or we're going back to where we were 60 years ago today?
You see, as a passion, you've read about how he talked about the founding fathers.
Yes.
I wish he could also have mentioned about the session paper number 10 of 1966.
This is fine.
That 65, that deliberately marginalized, deliberately as the founding father.
Okay.
That paper actually, there was a demarcation that decided that counties like, it was Kiambu, Murang'a, Kirinyaga, Nyeri, you see, Nairobi, they were to be allocated resource. They were the focal points of the country, and the rest of the other country was. So these are, they are deliberate attempts, of course, to move the country forward, but there are also deliberate attempts to withhold and pull back that. You see, at the end of the day, when we talk about things like poverty, and I always say, and those are some of the things, okay, I'll side with my brother here. When you talk about the right honorable, there are things he has done and we appreciate him for that. One of the greatest presents that we have as Kenyans is devolution. Devolution was an effort to eradicate poverty, to do all those things. But unfortunately, they are not working as they should. Like he said, one of the greatest hindrances is they're like this toothless institution like ESCC.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, as a person, 60 years down the line, I don't believe we have achieved
Okay.
what we should have achieved, and I don't believe at the moment, I don't believe we are headed in the direction of achieving that what we should have achieved 60 years from independence.
Jura, from where you sit, what do you think? What do you make of all this conversation that we are having today? Bottom-up economic model. We talk about the social welfare program, which we Kenyans are still asking that with all these corruptions in the political in the political scene or in the government, how are we going to even achieve that social welfare program? Is this something that is even achievable? Is there a blueprint that shows us how the social welfare program is going to be achieved? Are these things going to be visualized? Are they things that can be made to happen, or they're just mere propaganda so that one can ascend to power?
Two things in
Yes.
answering your question.
Yes.
We have two key presidential contenders so far.
Yes.
Of course, we may have others,
Okay.
but we have, at some point we say we have two horses.
Okay.
Then the rest remain donkeys. So the two horses that we have as at now
Okay.
is Raila Odinga and William Ruto.
Okay.
One of them is still in government, even today that we are speaking here. And
One horse.
one horse is in government and is one of the executive members of the government
Okay.
who is responsible in terms of achieving some of these things that we are talking here. And funny to say is that this guy comes to the podium, tells people about what they have not achieved or what he intends to achieve, and I ask myself, are Kenyans stupid, really? Because if you've been in the system and you know how that system operates, whether effective or ineffective, you've not told us how you have approached it in terms of addressing those particular inefficiencies within the same system.
Okay.
So Ruto has failed to address them, or he chose to keep off from that government so that he doesn't take any blame, which is the greatest sin he committed, because I think we elected him to that position so that he can go and help Kenyans
You elected him.
in addressing those particular problems. So he failed. I contend that Raila Odinga, as at now, is the best person to address some of these problems that we are facing.
With the Azimio la Umoja
With Azimio la Umoja,
social welfare program.
social
Are these
welfare program, among others that he has tried to advocate.
Aren't they
including-
propaganda?
They can't be propaganda, because I think there is a question you ask him and he chose not to answer it correctly about the Mwai Kibaki government. I think when we are off air,
Yes.
Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki served in the same government. And during that time, a lot of the infrastructure that we celebrate today were done during that period. So we can correctly say,
But he was kicked out.
we
during
can
that time.
correctly say, it is on record that some of this infrastructure were drawn by Raila Odinga.
Why was he kicked out?
Now, we can correctly say that during his time in government, at least there is 1, 2, 3 things we can say he did, including kicking Ruto when Ruto was too corrupt, and was involved in May scandal.
But Raila was also kicked
Today,
out by Kibaki.
and you understand that was politics. It is not
So
based
the
on
Ruto
any-
one was not politics.
It was not based, for Ruto, it was based on merit. He was corrupt. So he had no option but to keep off from being a government official. Today,
But Kibaki brought him back.
what I can tell the people of Kenya
Yes.
is that you have two candidates before you.
Okay.
One of the candidates is speaking the truth. Another one is a serial liar.
Actually, we are coming to that. You're talking about two. We have two. According
Two
to you,
horses,
is that
the
two
rest
horses?
are-
The others are donkey.
The
Okay,
others
we
are
are coming to that,
The
Sam,
others are
because
donkeys,
it begs a lot of
including
questions.
including his,
It begs a lot of
I think
questions.
his candidate.
It begs so much questions when you say we have two horses and the rest are donkeys. We want to know Musale Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, where they fall in. Are they donkeys or horses?
I think
Another
let me
bomb
start
more.
by
And
telling
okay.
him.
Well, we're coming to that. We're going for a short break, but of course, when we are back, we'll be having much more on this to discuss about. So don't go away. Don't touch the dial. Welcome back to The Insight. Well, we are having a conversation with a lawyer and an economist, that is Justice Akude Jura. We're also having a conversation with the political commentator, and of course, he's an MP aspirant, Butula constituency 2022. That is Kennedy Udweo. They're all on the bench tonight. Well, we're discussing about many issues happening in the political scene today. You can keep the conversation flowing in 21144 at GBS TV Africa, at Eugene Ochieng Kwach, in all social media platforms where you can get us and interact more with us. You can send in your questions, and of course, we are going to look at them later on. Well, Mr. Jura, you are talking about 2022 is a two-horse race, where you termed the others as donkeys. Do you think this is a creation of the media, or this is a creation of a certain sect of people that have termed the 2022 succession politics as only between Ruto and Raila?
I think it was my turn because he's the one who had already commentated on that. No, I will start by telling him that these people he's calling horses.
Yes.
One is purporting that one is in government and the other one is nowhere.
Okay.
Both people are in government. One is officially in government.
Okay.
The other one is unofficially in government.
Okay.
In fact, the unofficial one has more powers today than the official one.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, these are people who are there in the system. They know what is happening.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you cannot say that the other one is in government and the other one is not. Okay. Because we all know constitutionally, yes, we will say the deputy president is in the executive. But common sensely. Okay, of course, we are not governed by common sense, but of course, when we comment it, we need to tell Kenyans the truth as it is.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, at the moment, we may say we have two horses.
Okay.
But one day in politics, like 1,000 years.
Sure.
It's a long time.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we may not conclusively. Because as a person, I haven't yet heard the Right Honorable Raila Odinga saying that 2022, niko kwa baloti. As the president, and I want this thing. Okay. At the end of the day, as much as he's being interviewed by the people who have the password today. Yes. Actually, there's someone who once told me that there are people who are trying to hook the password to the IBC servers. Okay. So these interviews are about trying to find someone who can protect those interests so that they can give him the password. Because I told you, Oburu Odinga once said that with the system. So you find that this is a man who is these are people who are just trying to muscle. People are trying to show their muscles, but it's a long time, and even those who are writing off, it's a long time. It's a long period, and a lot of things can change.
Jura,
yes.
When you talk about two-horse race, 2022, is there a probability that there will be a third force that will give both Raila and Ruto a run for their money, 2022? Is there a possibility?
The fact of the matter is that those who have eyes can see. Okay. Right now, the front runners in this race is Raila and Ruto. Okay. He's saying that Raila has not made a declaration. Okay. It is customary known that Raila Odinga never makes such declarations, but the people ask him to vie. In no event has Raila come up and say that today I'm making my declaration, I want to be president. People ask him, Raila Odinga, can you become the president of Kenya? And he get into that exactly. Yes. I want to associate myself with the statement by Honorable Babu Wino. Yes. Where he says in 2022 or post-2022, Raila Odinga will be president and William Ruto will be a resident. And I also want to associate myself with the statement done by yesterday by Atuoli, when he said, he was asked a question that, is Raila Odinga a government project? And he said, it is not Raila Odinga who is a government project. It is the government that is Raila Odinga's project. Okay. So that means Raila Odinga has done his groundwork so well. And you can actually see, because we have always been treated into a narrative that, to access Mount Kenya is impossible. Right now, Raila Odinga can go and sleep in the heart of Sagana. He can go and sleep in the heart of Narumoru. He can go to Nanyuki. He can go to Muranga. He can go anywhere within central Kenya.
Okay.
And that tells you that whoever was claiming that he had the password to Mount Kenya
Yes.
can no longer ascertain that theory that he tried to perpetuate.
Okay.
And that, again, would be a determinant in trying to tell who would be the president of Kenya 2022. Because, like I said in many forums, that Ruto had thought that having Mount Kenya and Rift Valley would give him an automatic win. He had never preempted that Raila Odinga one time will go where? Will go to Mount Kenya, which Raila Odinga has gone now to. And again, you can now see, and even in a recent research that I think will come out, you will see how now the percentages are playing around.
Okay, let me ask the same question. We are going to actually come to Mount Kenya politics, and of course, these are the issues of Raila, of Ruto and Raila in Mount Kenya, succession politics. But let me get this right from you, Kennedy. Well, we're talking about third force because you've mentioned over 2 horse race 2022. A third force. Is there a possibility of, for example, of a third force, maybe of OKA, that is One Kenya Lands, and we also have Mount Kenya Unity Forum. Is there a possibility that Mount Kenya Unity Forum and One Kenya Alliance, because actually in the equation or the succession politics of 2022, we cannot wish them away. We cannot avoid not talking about them. The One Kenya Alliance and the Mount Kenya Unity Forum. Should they unite together? Because we understand so much that the Kikuyu or the Mount Kenya has always been central in the succession politics in every election. So should the Mount Kenya Unity Forum and One Kenya Alliance, which we also believe that have a mass following, come together? Will they maybe, how will it contribute to the equation or the architecture of the succession politics 2022?
I think before I mention that, I want to tell him, when he talks about Raila being able to sleep in the heart of Narumuru, we need to ask why. And the answer is because of the handshake. Raila was Njamba when he declared Kibaki Tosha. He became Mundu Muguruki when he was against Uhuru. So that is very obvious. He has become again, he can go there because of the handshake. So we need to understand that it doesn't just happen because of what people think.
Is that a
on the issue
flesh?
On the issue of the third force, I always tell people, and I want to remind my friend, Raila might be jumping around because he has the system around him and the structures and the government is pushing everything. But we are still a long way from next year. So we cannot close the possibility.
You cut me short. I wanted to answer your question. Yes. I was just trying to develop around it. Okay. But to be specific, you ask whether there is a likelihood of a third force coming. For me, I don't see a third force coming. Okay. Anything that you see in form of these political gatherings or political strategists coming together and saying they want to provide a third force, I don't see. Everything is coming to reinforce either Raila or Ruto. And you can see clearly where a majority of politicians, people who are seasoned politicians, Hakina CS Monya, the people you're mentioning from Mount Kenya, and even now if you come back to Kalonzo, Gideon Moi, they all contend that the 2022 is not their day. Okay. And for them to be relevant in politics, they have to support either Ruto or Raila.
What if it happens that they come together? The Mount Kenya Unity Forum, the One Kenya Alliance. Can we just wish them away and say, no, these guys, they do not have any influence at all?
You see, what is happening is that at the moment, people will say we have Raila and Ruto on the other side. Yes. But you see, politics is a game of interests. Okay. The reason why we have this Mount Kenya Foundation and we have this Mount Kenya thing, they are talking about the 3 MKs. It's because they are trying to create a forum that they can use to negotiate to a level where if they do not agree, then in Kenya today, it's a fact that you cannot do it alone. Okay. So what these people are trying to do, and that's why when you see props like Jimmy Wanjigi, it's not just out of nowhere. It's a case of trying to ensure that if we do not agree with this person, then we find a way of ensuring that even if he's the front runner, he doesn't get it in the first round. Okay. And if he doesn't, then it gives us a bigger energy and a bigger power to negotiate in the rerun. That's what is happening. Okay, I'll agree with him. Yes. Oka, when the what they say, what meets the rubber?
The road.
When the road meets the rubber, we know where they'll fall back. They'll fall back home. I don't want to say where home is.
Raila.
But at the end of the day, what I know is that everyone is trying to bargain and you can't write them off. Because OCA as a group, there are people who are capable of, if they were to organize themselves, there are people who can't, if they were to go to the ballot, they can't, they'll take at least 2 million
Is there a
votes.
possibility of an alliance between Raila and Ruto?
A possibility of an alliance between Raila and
Going
Ruto?
to 2022?
I don't see that.
Raila had answered the same thing when he was at Kasem FM.
Okay.
He said he doesn't foresee any alliance between him and Ruto.
Okay.
Because Ruto had taken his path, he has also taken his path.
Okay. Well, there's a new survey that carried out by the Mount Kenya region, that of course has placed the Deputy President William Ruto ahead of the pack in the presidential election set for August 2022. The Research Institute had previously conducted an opinion poll in 2019 that revealed Ruto was leading as a presidential candidate with 76%, as compared to Odinga with 5.4% and Mudavadi with 1.2%. Well, how, as Uhuru's falling out perhaps with Ruto, reduced, maybe increased the chunk of Raila's percentage in Mount Kenya, because right now it's at 54%. And the other time it was at 76%. What do you think about this, Jura?
Yes, I think that is what I was about to address.
Yes.
In the issue of percentage and how these numbers have been trying to adjust themselves.
Yes.
Before handshake, it is true that Raila could not make it to Mount Kenya because there was that political propaganda that was trying to revolve around him, and these people would not grant him audience.
Okay.
Today, after handshake, Raila Odinga can walk to central Kenya, contrary to the expectation that maybe William Samoei Ruto had thought. Because for him, he still believed that the propaganda, once perpetuated against Odinga, is still standing. But that is no longer the case. You can again read that with what happened in Kiambaa. When in Kiambaa, it was a percentage of, I think, 51-49. Now, the question is, if I want to become the president of a nation and my biggest bucket, which I expect to get from 99%, is leaking and leaking to the opponent, then I get to be worried. At 75, he was better off. Right now, he's at 50.
Was it actually leaking to the opponent? Because it was against Jubilee and UDA. And of course, Jubilee, its basis, it's still in Mount Kenya.
Jubilee is still Mount Kenya, but narrowing down to presidential candidates,
yes,
Jubilee will have to speak loudly about who they support in 2022. And chances are that is Odinga. So if they support Odinga, it means that the percentage that Jubilee government have, that is a percentage you add into the bucket of Odinga. So Ruto should be a worried person because we are done with him right now in Mount Kenya.
Yes.
Actually, we only needed 10% in Mount Kenya. Because if you look at the margin that the presidential candidates have always been leaving each other with, it has always between 400 to 600. And at 10% in Mount Kenya, it means we are going to get around 1,500,000. That is way above what we expect. So if we get 10%, we are good to go. In fact, right now, we are done with Mount Kenya. We are now going to Rift Valley. You saw us in Eldoret the other day, and you saw what happened. So again, we are going to try as much as we can to disintegrate further his backyard.
What do you think? Do you think that maybe what we now had as the handshake between Raila and Uhuru has given Raila mileage in politics so that he can traverse Mount Kenya and even get votes? And going forward 2022, because it's some months, around 8 months to around 10 months to the elections. Do you believe that Raila is going to have a higher percentage than what is now projected as what we have now? Do you think that perhaps it's going to be 50-50?
What I would like to tell my friend is that if Raila thought he'd really penetrated Mount Kenya and he could climb the mountain like he's claiming, he could have fielded an ODM candidate in Kiambaa. If the person who got 48% was an ODM candidate, I would celebrate as an ODM person. But that person was a Jubilee person. The fact that ODM was scared of fielding a candidate it simply means that even in 2022, they may not field. They did not field a candidate if they are scared of fielding candidates to test whether they have really penetrated.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, all I want to tell people, and I want to tell my friend, the reason why Ruto has an upper hand in Mount Kenya, there are two reasons.
Okay.
One, since Raila was kicked out of the NAC government,
Okay.
Raila has always been sold as an enemy of the Mount Kenya region.
Okay.
That's the fact, we agree. It's propaganda, yes, but he has always been sold as an enemy of the Mount Kenya region.
Okay.
That, you see, some poison has been pumped into people's minds for 15 years. You can't take that out in 2 years or 1 year. And that's the burden that Raila has in the Mount Kenya region.
Yes.
It's propaganda, all of us know.
Yes.
But that is what is happening. The advantage that Ruto has is because they were on a path with Uhuru. There were some promises Uhuru made publicly. Wachana hata na hiyo ya Ruto 10, yangu 10, Ruto 10. The people of the mountain region had expectations economically. Just like even the Mount Kenya Foundation was saying,
Yes.
we are business people. This is what we expect. And I understand them. When Uhuru came into power, we all know what has happened. The economy has crashed, the taxation and all those things. So there is that resentment. And that's what made UDA win in Kiamba. That's what made Chama cha Kazi win in Juja.
Okay.
Because there is that revolt against Uhuru. And when they revolt against Uhuru, you see, when you present Raila Odinga, and you know, in Kenya, when you present Raila Odinga and William Ruto,
Yes.
we always vote. On most occasions, Raila did not, the people of the mountain did not refuse to vote for Raila because Raila was worse.
Yes.
It was a matter of choosing a lesser devil.
Okay.
When given a choice between Raila and Ruto, the people of the mountain are more sympathetic towards William Ruto as opposed to Raila.
Just to be on
of those
record.
two
20
reasons.
seconds.
Just to be on record,
Yes.
I don't dispute the fact that Ruto has an upper hand above Raila in
Thank you.
Central.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, as a presidential contender,
Yes.
you know this is your backyard, as you correctly put it.
No, it's not.
Then it should
it's not his
remain-
back.
it
That's a
should
battleground.
remain-
It's still a battleground.
You believe it is a battleground.
Yes.
Then if it is, how many battlegrounds does Ruto have? Because me, what I would say is this, yeah? If I'm Raila Odinga and I'm claiming that Nyanza is my backyard, then that backyard should remain shatterproof and indestructible. It should remain that way at all times. So that whether an opponent comes, the percentage at all times must remain constant.
You know, let me
At
just to
security-
point out in 5 seconds.
But in Central, that is not the case. You've just read that at some point it was at 75%.
Okay.
Then
Gentlemen,
again, it has now degenerated to 50-something percent.
Gentlemen, we have less than 10 minutes for this conversation, and I'd love us to look at the Raila's style in leadership, and of course also Ruto's style of leadership or engagements in politics. Well, for a very long time, Ruto, since 1997, has been seen to be a pro-establishment, the state establishment. He has been in government, and everything that the government, he has been supporting. If it is Moi, he's been supporting Moi. He has supported Uhuru Kenyatta. He has supported, he has been in government since. But now today, he is now against, actually, is now pro the people, because actually he talks about the people. When he champions the bottom-up economic model, it is about the people and not any other person, not the politicians. You look at Raila, for a very long time, he has been championing the people's aspirations as the opposition leader. Even his father was championing the aspirations as the opposition leader. So it has been happening that way. But of recently, after the handshake of 2018, we have seen a shift in things. As we have seen now, the deputy president is now this other side, while now the former prime minister, who purportedly was an opposition leader, and as many people say that is now in government, is now pro-establishment as well, pro-state establishment. And actually, when you talk about that, you're also going to talk about what you had mentioned earlier, that Raila Amolo Odinga is now the state project. And of course, Ruto was now saying that
I
Raila
said state is his project.
Yeah, but now people claim
that
that
is what
Raila,
Atwoli said.
But Ruto saying,
Can you believe what Atwoli
but
said?
Ruto says that he is the what? He's the test project.
And it's true.
Why is this shift in all these things, in their contest? Why is there a switch in their style? Is it by political design or is it by fate?
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
You see, William Ruto, you've said he's always been pro-system publicly.
Okay.
I think I would rather have a man who publicly confesses to something than a man who is a pseudo supporter. Raila Odinga has been a pseudo pro-system. He doesn't want to look like he's part of the system, but he's part of the system. That's why he willingly joined KANU.
Towards the end.
Yes, that's why when people were believing in him to capture the presidency because we've won elections, he went into a coalition arrangement that only ended up benefiting him.
Okay.
People will talk about even this thing to us. The other time we were resisting, including myself. He went into a handshake. What has it benefited? Corruption is still at sky high.
Okay.
Fuel prices have been raising. Electricity charges.
Fuel the other day.
So what are we saying? What we are saying is that William Ruto has been pro-system, yes. But you see, this is a man who comes out and tells you, and you see, this is a man, you see, this is what I'm doing.
Is simple.
Now the problem with Raila is that...
Why the change of style?
You see, the change of... It's a matter of convenience. Raila has seen an opportunity. And you know, all along...
Has seen an opportunity as well.
You see, Ruto is a decisive man. He chooses a path and he pursues it at the end. However unpopular. Raila Odinga is this guy who chameleonates around.
Okay.
So what he has done, like he has done before, he joined KANU with an expectation of a Raila Tosha.
Yes.
Bwana Nyayo played him. When in the coalition government, he was given a few, he became the champion for Mau and all that stuff. It flowed him, went into a coalition government. Kenya never, he had the majority in parliament. Why didn't he pass laws to even fight electoral injustices? Today he went into a handshake. As we don't want peace.
So according to you, Ruto is the man. And okay, let me.
What I'm saying
now, is it by style? Is it by design or is it by?
What
fate?
I'm saying,
yes,
Ruto is by design.
Okay.
Raila is out of convenience. As you see, this is a man who've learned the art of survival. A man who wants to be the man of the moment under whatever circumstances. And that's why you find him getting to a point where he's willing to throw away his entire history.
What do you make of all this?
By convenience and by design is one and the same thing. Just to correct him.
Okay.
You would have chosen by default maybe to put it into the right context. The fact of the matter is, I've asked how you trying to describe Ruto, but that is incorrect, to say the least.
Okay.
Ruto, what is trying to pursue now is populist type of politics, where you are trying to incite people against system, you are trying to incite people against certain dignitaries within the state, and trying to absolve yourself of the blame and say, you know, all these problems that we've been facing is because of person X or person Y. And that is a very wrong path. You saw Sonko tried to use it in Nairobi County, won, but later on did what? Failed, because he had no idea on how the government or the county government ought to be operating. So what Ruto is trying to pursue right now is a populist type of politics, which he thinks is convenience for him, like he says, so that he can garner the public sympathy towards the 2022 election. Raila Odinga has always remained consistent. He's trying to say that Raila is a chameleon. That is what he's trying to say. But Raila has always delineated himself clearly well and said, this is what I believe in. When he brought in BBI, he supported it until court stopped and said, because court has stopped BBI, now we are selling another thing, Azimio La Umoja, and it is selling. It is something that now Kenyans are picking on. Again, let us differentiate between system and political parties. The Political Parties Act gives any political party to engage in a coalition agreement pre or post election. So to tell me that Raila Odinga got into KANU or otherwise, that is a non-issue. And KANU that is a political party. When we talk about the system, we are talking about the state.
Why didn't they sign an official coalition arrangement with Jubilee then?
We're talking about the state. Now, the issue of handshake, Raila has always said, Raila looked at the history of this country and where the rain started beating us from, and said this rain is about two communities, between communities fighting ethnic issues, antagonism. So he said, if I greet the president and we say, let us engage in a united nation, and the country has always been peaceful. And let me assure you, the 2022 election, because now you see, because of the handshake, we are going to witness one of the best elections
Okay.
in this country, it is going to be peaceful.
Yes.
The problem that you've been seeing in Mathare, in Kibra, you won't see them again.
Okay.
You won't see them. And I want to give you this again as a parting shot.
Yes, yes.
That to be president,
Yes, you
just as a parting shot,
Yes,
kind
yes.
of. To be a president in this country, you need to man the big cities.
Okay.
We have Mombasa, we have Kisumu, we have Nairobi.
Yes.
Where is Ruto in all that?
Okay.
He is raised to power zero in all those kind of cities.
Okay, well, let me give you a chance, 20 seconds, to give your parting shot as well.
As I've always said before, you see, most of these people will come out, the so-called horses will come up with narratives. But at the end of the day, if you listen to what they are saying, both of them are populists.
Okay.
They say things to excite people, and you tell people about 6,000. That's why I always tell young people, especially the young people, we need to organize
So
ourselves.
you're watering down what you had said earlier.
No, I'm not watering down what I had said.
Okay.
What I'm saying, when we've done all this, we need to engage our brains when we're making these
10
decisions,
seconds.
so that we don't get carried away by these populist statements where you are being lied to that you'll be paid for doing nothing. You'll be paid 6,000.
Okay.
What I want to tell young people is that let's mobilize, let's organize. This country is ours. Let's not leave our future in the hands of people who have nothing to lose. Let's not leave our future in the hands of people who will not be there 20 years from today.
Okay. Jura, maybe on voter party, what do you want to tell the people who are watching this?
I want to talk to youths particularly and tell them that we have 1 more week remaining for mass voter registration. We have 1 more week for mass voter registration. I encourage youths to turn in their large numbers and go and register. Why? Because to take part in decision making, you have to have some sense of legitimacy. Your vote guarantees your legitimacy, so that you come to the table and discuss with them who have votes matters concerning governance. But if you don't have your vote, you lose legitimacy. You cannot reason with them because you don't have the tool of trade. The tool of trade in any voting period is your vote.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for this conversation that we have had together this time. Of course, this is The Insight every Friday, 8 p.m. You find us on The Insight at GBS TV Africa. Well, on behalf of everyone else who has made this a success, I'd love to wish you a good night. But of course, we are in a Mashujaa week. I'd love to also wish you a happy Mashujaa. But of course, as Akude Jura and my friend Keridia said, you need to go out and register as a voter and let your voice count. Well, it is now that time that you say good night. Till next Friday.